Good evening, all. It is 7:05. I'll call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. It's May 9th, and all selectmen are present. If you would all join me and rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do have transmitting of Treasury warrants 44, 44A, 45, and 45A to approve. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussion? See none. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We do have a set of minutes from April 25th Board of Selectmen meeting to approve or review. Is there a motion or a discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there discussion on the minutes? I see none. All in favor of approving these minutes? Unanimous? Thank you. Our first appointment this evening is with Mr. Scott Garant, Chairman of the 4th of July Committee, to request the use of the town common for annual 4th of July festivities. Mr. Grant, it's a great pleasure to see you here this evening, because that must mean we have 4th of July festivities.
We're getting there. Events are planned for Thursday, June 30th. First, excuse me, welcome to the new members of the board.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thursday, June 30th through Sunday, July 3rd. Fireworks, this font gets smaller as I get older. The fireworks will be on Saturday, July 2nd, with a rain date of Sunday, July 3rd. Approximately 24 Wilmington-based nonprofits are participating once again this year. The number is actually up with our return to the common. We've had an influx of new groups and a return of some prior groups that had participated but hadn't for the past couple of years. Carnival will be operating from the parking lot next to the 4th of July building. And I'd like to commend Town Manager Jeff Hull and Assistant Town Manager Kendra Amaral for passing their crash course on what it takes to put together a carnival. It's very much appreciated. It'll be important this year for people to check our website, to be aware of the fact of where they can park. Parking is going to be very limited with the carnival in the parking lot. We're hoping to have some parking available at the high school, but that's a reduced number of spaces than we used to have next to the 4th of July building. And I would ask that folks go to our website, funonthefourth.com, and fourth, the word is spelled out, as we get closer to the event starting on June 30th, to know where parking will be available, especially on the big night of the fireworks on July 2nd. So that's one component of our request. The second component is for you folks under your rules and regulations regarding hawkers and peddlers to, as we request annually, prohibit professional vendors from coming within a half mile of the town common in order to protect the community groups who set up their booths and for the food and the wares that they sell during the event. Thank you.
Very good, yeah. Thank you very much, Scott. You mentioned parking will be challenging. My only question that I have is with regards to shuttle buses. Is that just exclusively for the evening of fireworks, or will you be running those at any other time? It is just fireworks
It's the
night?
evening of fireworks.
Okay. So I imagine, I don't want to commit you or anybody else to anything in terms of parking, but are there conversations going on with some ancillary parking lots that potential use around there?
We've had conversations. We actually had a meeting with Mr. Hull and several department heads, or I did last week, to begin planning, to discuss options, and we'll be having at least 2 more meetings with all the department heads before June 30th.
Very well, thank you. I want to certainly give the opportunity for members of the board to ask questions of you, so I'll start over here to Mr. Bendel if you have any.
No, just that I appreciate all the work that you and your committee have done, and I'm looking forward to the event. And I've already told my wife that we're probably going to take an Uber to free up some parking, so we're looking forward to it.
Much appreciated, thank you.
Yeah, I'm too. I'm looking forward to the carnival, very much in favor of it. Just a couple questions, though. Where's the fireworks being launched from this year?
On the grass practice field along Wildwood Street.
Okay. And there's no problem with the proximity of the school? That's all been figured into the launching site?
Under the State Fire Marshal's regulations, we're probably going to have to drop an inch on shell size. Historically, well, maybe the last 12, 15 years, we've shot as high, as big as a 6-inch shell. We're probably gonna have to drop down to 5-inch, but we're well within the circumference that's required under the fire marshal's regulations.
And then the last question I have is in regards to security of the school itself, or even some of the abutters that are there that were concerned before. I don't know if you had time to talk with the chief and how you're going to deal with that, or if that's something you'd get back to us as to how.
We've had numerous conversations, really dating back to last September, as the committee was preparing to go in front of the Board of Appeals. In November, it ended up being, December, it ended up being January for our first hearing. I have full confidence in our public safety officials, and the police chief was here this evening, to protect the neighborhood, to protect the school. There'll really be minimal use of school property, other than parking, perhaps using the basketball court. We're hoping to bring back 3-on-3 basketball,
Great, thanks.
outdoors.
I'm not going to be able to play, though. I can't compete against Greg.
Yeah.
Mr. McCoy?
Thank you. I'm really glad to see this going forward. I know the Fourth of July committee volunteerism's at an all-time high in the town, but I got to give kudos out to Selectman Newhouse. It was a great idea that he had, that the town be the applicant. If he didn't think of it, it may not have happened. But I got to give him credit. It was a great idea, and I have no issue complimenting someone else if they have a better idea than I did, and I would never even would have thought of that, but that needs to be said. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Judy? Yeah.
Just want to say thank you very much to you, Scott, and to your whole team for hanging in there through this whole process. And obviously, it's an annual event, and I know how much time you all put into it, so I appreciate that. Just want to thank collectively everyone that's involved on all the committees, departments, town personnel, to try and work collaboratively to bring this forward for the town of Wilmington. So I certainly will be in support of it and in favor of this, and I certainly will try and participate as much as I can. So thank you.
Thank you.
I will say, just in closing on the selectmen's side, I want to have Jeff chime in here, but you had mentioned that, Jeff and company and his staff here got a crash course on how to engage with and ultimately hire a carnival company, and ultimately they'll continue to learn on the job what it takes to work with the carnival operator in setting up and having that event go off where it is we that are the applicants, as it were. I know that I don't have to say this, but I say it publicly, and we've already had the conversation, that, certainly the town is grateful to all of the work that you and the 4th of July Committee do on an ongoing basis, and the patience that you've gone through and, get this whole exercise. But I would humbly request, and I know I don't have to, that you stay in the game and sort of offer consultancy, or whatever the term would be, for the municipal employees that have to sort of engage with, in this case, it's Fiesta Shows, correct? That's we've selected. So obviously your familiarity with it, your sort of database of experience and expertise would be invaluable to the town in the operations of it. So in as much as it's the town's carnival, we value your input and your assistance in that regard.
Oh, absolutely, and I appreciate that. And we have, through the process of the town's application, we've committed to doing so during the celebration, with the sole exception of carnival-related complaints go to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
That's fantastic. It's good. Well, it just so happens that we'll discuss that a little bit later. Enough said. So Jeff, please, if you have more to chime in here from the management perspective.
Well, I think it's really been said. It's been kind of an interesting process, to say the least. Certainly persistence was what paid off here between the town and the July 4th committee. We're prepared to offer a quality event again this year, and I'm glad that we can rely upon the July 4th committee members to assist us as we go forward with this carnival event, and certainly their ad with all the various nonprofits being involved in the meals that'll be held and the fireworks themselves. So I think it'll be a good event all around.
Indeed, indeed. So, Jeff, unless you feel like we ought to, I feel like this ought to be taken up as two separate votes. One, to authorize the use of the common for the nonprofits during the days requested, and then after we conduct that vote, we would take a separate vote to authorize or to impose restrictions on the hawkers and peddlers. Does that ring with
Yes.
everyone else? So I would accept a motion for either of those at this time.
So moved on the first.
Okay, so I have a
Motion and-
motion for Mr. Kyra to authorize the use of the common for the nonprofits during the days in question.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on that? I see none. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. So the next would be a motion to impose restrictions prohibiting hawkers and peddlers, transient vendors, and temporary or transient businesses from conducting business within 1/2 mile of the town common on the dates in question.
I'd make a motion to offer as described by the chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? I
Just a
s-
quick
Yeah, please.
housekeeping thing is, if this gets voted through, which I expect that it will, how do we notify some of the vendors that, we have typical ice cream vendors that we use? I mean, is it understood that they know that restriction's been in place, or is this a big issue? I mean, I think it's necessary, don't misunderstand my comment, but is it a big issue?
It's not a big issue for the Wilmington regulars, the regular ice cream trucks in town. The problem we run into, quite frankly, is the shopping carts with the glow sticks and those items coming in from out of town.
Gotcha, okay, fair enough.
Any further discussion? See none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Thank you. If I could, just ask your indulgence for another 30 seconds.
Please do.
As the board is aware, for 36 years, we've funded this celebration primarily through donations, primarily through the proceeds that we receive, a portion of the proceeds from the carnival. And with that being absent in 2013, being greatly diminished the last 2 years, we're up against it. And so this year, for the first time, we've undertaken a wholesale fundraising campaign, which we call the Red, White, and Blue Fundraising Campaign. And information regarding that for any companies, any individuals, any families that would like to donate to help us put on this event this summer, and the tree lighting in December. The information's available on our website, again, funonthefourth.com, or on our Facebook page. So,
And
thank you.
if I could ask your indulgence, I would just
Sure.
want to make it real publicly clear, talk about preaching to the choir here, that nobody, you included on your committee, makes $1 from any of the volunteer activities that you put in.
Correct.
I just want to
Correct.
make sure that
No-
everyone hears that again.
Nor do we make any money from the community groups.
Thank you. Noted.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Scott.
much, folks.
Thank you. Our 7:10 appointment is with Kim Martinello, Event Chair for the Wilmington Relay for Life, regarding the 8th Annual American Cancer Society Wilmington Relay for Life. Ms. Martinello, good evening.
Hello, everyone. Thank
Hello.
you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and welcome to the newest members as well. So I am here to speak on behalf of Joe, who is out of town for business, and Julie Rossio from the American Cancer Society to speak to our event again this year, which will be held on Friday, June 17th through the 18th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. It's a 12-hour event, so it is overnight. This is a fundraising event for the American Cancer Society that began here in town 8 years ago. And during the construction of the new high school, we spent 2 years at Shawshene Tech and then 2 years at the middle school. And we just wanted to acknowledge how grateful we are to both locations for allowing us to continue the fundraiser during that construction. But we must admit, we are very excited to be back at the high school where it all began. So a couple of changes for this year. So as in previous years, we had to adapt to our new locations each time that we moved to ensure that we minimized the impact on the location that we were hosting the event at. So the big change for this year is that we won't be setting anything on the turf field, and we won't be using the turf field for the duration of the event. The campsites are actually going to move to the baseball field, but we are going to stay off the infield and away from the dugouts. So this is a change for Wilmington, but to be noted, it's certainly not a change for the American Cancer Society. Each of these events that they host around the country and the world have a unique and custom design for each location that's held at. One other thing that we're adding this year is what we call virtual survivors. So those are individuals who can't attend the event either because of their distance, mobility, or other health issues, but we still want to invite them to participate as part of the event. So they actually are welcome to register and a member of the team, one of the teams, will walk in their place at relay, and they will carry a sign that says, "I'm walking for so-and-so who is a virtual survivor," and that survivor will still also receive the gift and survivor shirt that we hand out as well. So what's not changing? Our ceremonies, we still have the survivor lap and a survivor dinner. We have music and theme laps, which always bring out a lot of good creativity. We will have some on-site competitions, including a spin on the relay races that we've had in the past, as well as the sales for the luminaria and a slideshow that people can honor those that they've lost. So from a statistic perspective, right now we have about 22 teams and close to 140 participants, including a team from Tewksbury High School. So we are starting to move into that community as well. To date, for this event, we've raised just over $35,000. The goal is to hit $1 million this year, and so we are at $921,000 to date. So we could do it this year. So what's happening right now is teams are continuing to sign up, and so participants are continuing to join those teams. There are a lot of fundraisers that happen in advance. We have a lot of canning dates at a couple of the Dunkin' Donuts locations in town. One that's also coming up on June 3rd is Wilmington Dances for Hope, where all of the dance studios in the town of Wilmington come together and have a fundraiser, and all the proceeds go to Relay. And we're also, as a committee, working on some final touches. And we also want to thank everyone for allowing us to light the common purple for the month of May. Will admit, a couple people thought it was because of Prince, so we had to clarify that. So really what we need at this point is just more teams and participants, because as we all know, it's people that make this event. And any support that we can get from any local businesses in the form of donations, whether they're monetary or a service or product, are greatly appreciated.
Excellent.
There we are.
Very concise and thorough. Want to make sure that each member has an opportunity to offer comments or questions, so I'll start to the left. Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you very much, Kim, for being here. I will say I did get a lot of questions on the Prince piece, but I did know that it was the American Cancer Society. So I just want to convey my profound thanks to you and to Joe and to your whole team for what you've done annually. I remember the very beginning when you first came in here and how this event has evolved. It really is a testament to your team, and it really is an uplifting event for many families within the community to come together as a town of Wilmington to celebrate life, to remember people that they've lost, and to take up this continuous battle against an insidious disease that has affected all of us. So thank you for continuing to do what you do every day, and this is certainly a shining example of volunteerism and what it means to give back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Selectman O'Connell basically said it all, but, you know, once again, I want to thank you on behalf of myself and the board as well for what you folks do. And I believe, you know, someone has lost someone close to them relative to cancer, whether it's a family member or a friend. I know I lost my mother at age 42 to cancer. So we all can share personal stories with that because it's such a, you know, tragic thing. So once again, appreciate the awareness, what you folks do. You're out there raising funds, and it's totally amazing what you folks do out there. Totally amazing. And thank you.
Mr. Kara.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what my colleague said, and thank you very much for what you're doing, your family's doing on behalf of fighting this terrible disease. But I do have one question, though, in regards to the location that you're having it at the baseball field. Have you considered the softball field where they're actually, I believe Scott Grant mentioned they're launching the fireworks from? It's a larger space, and it doesn't involve dugouts where there could be issues with the dugouts, and it's still fenced off. So I didn't know if that was under a consideration for looking at that.
Yeah.
It'd be bigger, still a, you know, natural grass where they can put the tents up and everything as well,
Yeah,
so.
I would have to double check. I thought there was some discussion around that, but there may have been some other reasons why we weren't going to be able to use that site, but it's certainly something we should
Yeah,
make
just
sure we double check
If I could
on.
jump in on that, the concern is that the grass is still growing in there. In fact, Gil Bain, or one of their subs, has been out there fairly recently, again, applying the seed mix to try to cultivate the grass over there. So that may be something for a future year, but I think this year would be, we want to give it a little more time.
Okay, I just was concerned with the infield, as it's a brand new infield with the new clay and the new dugouts.
Yeah,
I just think it may be better off in the other section.
The plan, and we've had some conversations and certainly involved Public Works, that area will be separated off. Clearly, we'll rely upon the relay to police that, so to speak, but the intent would be for them to use the outfield area.
Thank you.
Mr. Vandal?
Thank you, and thanks for being here. Appreciate all the work you and Joe do and all the volunteers. It's a great event. I've participated in the past, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully there'll be a good showing, and hopefully this good weather will continue all the way through the event and beyond.
I'm just staggered by the numbers. First and foremost, well, not from foremost, but 8 years, which blows my mind. It still feels like we're kind of that you're that it's new to us, and 8 years is really a testament, given the wrinkles that have happened through those 8 years with the locations and stuff. So again, it's a testament to all the folks that have stayed the course and been there through all that time, including especially yourselves. And the other number's $1 million. I mean, the likelihood, hopefully, that you get there this year, that's no small task. That's a whole hunk of money. So congratulations, and thank you go to you and everybody that participates for both the awareness but also for the fundraising and for the benefits that fundraising generates for folks that are dealing with the struggles, as we've all been touched by it in some way, shape, or form. So thank you. I'm most assuredly delighted to support the efforts. And do we have a vote to take on this evening at all? It's
Just an
all systems
information.
go. Awesome. So thank you very much, Kim. We appreciate you being here, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Our 7:20 scheduled appointment is with Deb Cipriani, the Recreation Director here in Wilmington, and Christopher Sullivan, our new Animal Control Officer. Hello, Mr. Sullivan. And they were going to review for us the rules and regulations for our new dog park. So, Ms. Cipriani and Mr. Sullivan, welcome aboard. Whoop. Tighten the leg. Tighten the left leg.
Good evening.
Hi.
Can you see me? Sort of this way. Kevin and Greg, welcome aboard. Nice to see you, and thank you very much for having us here tonight. Just for a little bit of history of how we got to the dog park. When the Yentl Farm was up and people were voting on that, sending in surveys, a lot of people were asking for was a dog park. Again, when Valerie Gingrich from the Planning Department put out a survey for communities near their homes and neighborhoods, what people were looking for, again, dog parks came up as one of the top things that they were looking for. So that's what started us with this campaign, is to take this on. At a lot of the meetings for Yentl Farm, people of all ages got up and told us that their children had 4 legs, which is something that we don't think a lot about. And when we're saying we're trying to offer something for everybody, this is how it came about. The last few months, in February, the commissioners and the Recreation Commission were given the homework assignment of bringing in looking into different properties, dog parks locally, and to come in with lists of rules and regulations that they thought were very important that should be added. And Chris Sullivan has been wonderful. He's been great as far as reaching out to different towns as well to find out what worked and what didn't work. Different veterinarians when we had questions on some of the rules and regulations, and he was instrumental in getting that passed along. We've got 2 maps here. This first one is it shows an all-dog section as well as a small dog section. And the reason that was proposed like this is that you have to be with your dog. People can bring in 2 dogs, which is very common with a lot of the different parks. But if they have a large dog and a small dog, how do you stay with your pet? So that's why we have all dogs, they can bring the small dog in with them and have their large one as well. The veterinarians that we reached out to find out what was best to determine what a small dog was, and it was shoulder height of 18 inches. So we're gonna have kind of like when you go to the parks and you see the sign like under this height, or at the airports where the suitcases have to be under a certain height, same thing will be for the dogs. So it'll be visual for their heights. So that's how that came about. This one has got a lot of the measurements in it. This is a half-acre property. So it's sectioned into the two different sections. Both of them will have a double gated area, and that's for the safety of the dog. So if the dog should get out of one area, of this fenced-in area, and get into here, it's a security system. So there's a double gate. There's one on each side, as well as the fence in between with an emergency gate, what we call an emergency gate. It's for people to be able to get back one side from the other, but if there was a fight, a dog fight by here, and people wanted to get out or needed to get out, we wanted an exit for them, which is why we've done that. There's also two gates that are here that are wider, and those are for the DPW vehicles. And this is just pretty much the same thing, except for it's just showing where the existing path is that they'll be using to be able to get to the park. That's why the gates are right here. We moved them where they were going to be, because this way they could use the existing path that was already there. So as I said, we spoke with different communities, going over different rules and regulations and, you know, picking up a lot of those. Kevin Perkins, the town's loss prevention insurance control, sent us a whole listing of ones that thought should be included. So we went over those very closely as well. And then Chris?
Evening, thank you for having me. Kevin and Greg, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, one of the questions that got brought up to me was the rules and regulations, if they get voted on and passed, how they get enforced. So, the way it works right now is the current bylaw is probably about 3 sentences long. It really only deals with unleashed dogs. We have a new proposed bylaw that is going through the works, a much broader spectrum, covers a whole much bigger area, gives me more leeway as far as fines go and whatnot. But both bylaws don't cover anything regarding the dog park. So with these new rules and regulations, under section 54 of the town bylaw, which reads, this section shall apply to all rules and regulations duly adopted by the Board of Selectmen, acting as the Board of Park Commissioners. So it's my understanding if these rules and regulations are voted on and passed, that I would be able to enforce these rules under that section, which comes out to a $50 fine. So if we have a repeat offender not cleaning up after their dogs, the dog keeps digging holes after numerous warnings, I can issue a $50 fine or whatnot. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes.
Thank you. Just reviewing some of these rules and regulations. I appreciate the presentation and certainly the maps, and I've been driving by personally for the last several weeks and seeing the progress that's being made. And it's exciting, and admittedly, I'm not a dog owner, but I recognize both from the surveys as well as just having conversation with residents that this is a need, and I'm delighted that the town is making this, is putting this together to fulfill that need. I guess it's kind of new to, I think, everybody. You guys have been in it, so you have a better grasp on it. I feel like I'm kind of, other than I've had 3 days now to sort of review this content, so I want to certainly afford the opportunity for each member to articulate any questions, and I guess we can take up a conversation among us at the conclusion of question and answers as to what the next steps ought to be here among the board. So why don't I'll start with questions. I'll start from the inside out, and Mr. Carr, if you don't mind, if you're ready, that is, and you can certainly come back if you think of something after.
Yeah, no, one thing I may have missed at the very end, Chris, that you said that there's something that a bylaw needs to be changed or an article needs to be changed where we adopt a $50 fine. Is that what?
There is a current bylaw, it says under section 54.
Okay.
So if the rules and regulations that we're proposing tonight are passed, it would fall under that category for me to enforce.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in for a quick second on that point. Clearly, the intent is to try to make this a user-friendly space. So I think it's important that the board understand, what the enforcement mechanism would be. But, as Chris and I have talked, the intent would be if there's issues with dog owners not upholding their end of the bargain, if you will, there would be some verbal counseling, if you will, or education about what the rules are. And I think the intent is to try to expect that folks will follow the rules, but if at the end of the day there's someone who is persistently violating the regulations, there does need to be a mechanism to up the ante, if you will.
No, I understand that. I just didn't know if this is part of a town bylaw or town article. Does this need to be incorporated into that, and does it need to go to town meeting for a change of an article? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
Based upon the information that Chris has brought forward, we believe that currently we can, to the extent that a fine is required, that he is able to do that under this section of the bylaw. But certainly if there needs to be changes, they would have to be brought back to a subsequent town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. I want to take that under advisement, too, when we get to the end of Q&A. Let's bring that up again, if you don't mind. Mr. Bendel, do you have anything?
Well, certainly thank you for all your work on this. Appreciate it, and I know people are really excited about it. It's obviously a nice addition to the town. I do have one question, and it's not in regards to the rules, but maybe I missed it. Forgive me if I did. But the target opening date, a lot of people have asked me about when it might be open.
Right, currently, we've got some benches on order and a sign, as well as some of the exercise equipment type thing for the dogs. So we're waiting for that to come in. I think we're looking at the end of May, probably beginning of June,
Probably
possibly.
beginning of June.
Probably beginning of June, before everything is delivered and installed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set? Mr. McCoy?
Yeah, I know this is something obviously new for the community, and I'm sure as time goes along, we'll have to tweak certain things, but I know it's probably in good hands with the new animal control officer, and obviously, we need responsible pet owners, especially dog owners, that are going to be out there. So it looks good, and we just, like I said, we'll just have to tweak it a little bit as we go along. It's a learning experience for everybody, and I'm sure ultimately the town's going to get a lot of reward from it. And we can always give Caesar a call from the Dog Whisperer if we have any questions, right? Because I think he'd be more than happy to come here to the town of Wilmington. Thank you.
Ms. O'Connell?
Just wanted to say thank you very much for taking this on, both of you. Obviously, you had commented about the Yentile piece, which was how it started in the beginning, and it was a difficult decision, obviously, to take it out of that plan. So I'm really appreciative to you personally, Deb, for taking this on and seeing it through. I know we just continue to kind of add to your list with between Yentile and the dog park beyond everything that you already do. So I can't say enough about that, and I recognize that personally. Obviously, this is a super exciting thing. I've been a huge proponent of this, and I think you guys have done a really nice job. I just want to ask, just from a communication standpoint, can you talk about some of the communication outlets that you're going to use to convey this message? So and I'll give you a chance to respond, but I mean, would there be something in the town crier? Would this be on the town website? Do you intend to have a placard with all of these rules listed? Would there be an emergency number that's actually there if someone needs to dial from a cell phone? I'm assuming the answer is yes to a lot of these questions, but I'm just having this conversation so it's into the record and people are seeing it at home.
Yes. There will be sets of rules by each gate, so that people will see that. Also, we'll put it on the town website, on the recreation website. We would put it in the town crier. All the rules and regulations would have to be in there as well.
And there'll be the non-emergency police
Yeah,
number.
there's a number right here,
It'll be
right on the
down
very
there on
bottom.
site, so if someone is
Well,
in
this
a-
is like the set of rules type
Yeah.
thing, like that. That'd be right on there at the bottom.
Okay.
We just set that at the very bottom so that would
Yeah,
stand out
yeah,
right there.
perfect. And obviously, I think, I was talking kind of offline, there may be a ribbon cutting ceremony of some kind for this?
Right, once we've got a better idea of what's gonna happen, trying to think about, we did have input from some of the residents as well that came to a couple of the meetings to give their input, so we'd like to get them back in here with their dogs and see what we can do,
Great.
ribbon cutting.
Well, once again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I might suggest a leash cutting ceremony, just, sorry.
That's an idea.
Sorry. No charge.
Unique.
So, consistent, well, I'm sorry, Jeff, do you want to, do you have additional commentary?
Just that we're excited to, offer this opportunity, again, to Debbie's point, we're trying to create opportunities that don't currently exist, and that was one of the themes that came out of the Yentile surveys. There were other interests that people had, whether it was a dog park or walking trails and so on. So I think this will be a good add. It will be clearly, the responsibility of dog owners to self-police, if you will. It's going to be, I think, my expectation is that, given the enthusiasm that we've heard on social media and otherwise, that the dog owners will take ownership, if you will, of this space. And from what I understand in other communities, that in fact happens, that there are groups of individuals that bring their dogs there on a regular basis and kind of act as good stewards of the space, and we hope that that happens here.
Thank you, Jeff. And I wanted to come back to the very valid and observation that Mr. Kara made previously. And Mr. Sullivan, you read the bylaw that exists now that gives, that denotes that there is some mechanism for fines when there is rules and regulations put in place. So it made room for rules and regulations around a dog park that didn't exist at the time the bylaw was written, but could foresee something like that. Is that the interpretation that you have?
Correct, so the way I'm reading it, it's kind of already set there, and we can just apply the rules to the dog park to fit this section. Now, like Mr. Hall said, my goal isn't to be cracking the whip on everybody and $50 here and there. Talk to people, educate them. There'll be log entries made every dealings I have with. So there'll be names in the log, so we can go back and say, you've been warned 3-4 times. Okay, now it's time for a fine. At some point, maybe we can, the department heads and the police department get together and maybe change the fee amount from 50 more or less, depending on. But at least we have something already in here that if it's voted on and passed, I think it can be applied right away for the start of the opening to the dog park.
And I appreciate, I recognize and appreciate and agree with your approach. So thank you for that. I think that's certainly the right approach, and so always try to talk it out first, right? Where I am is, and I don't want to speak for you, Mr. Kara, but I feel like I would like to have 1 degree further of assurance that us adopting these rules and regulations then becomes the formal adoption and does fit into the bylaw that's already in the books. So I don't know if that's something that's run by town council, or if we could adopt this tonight with that as a contingency of getting confirmation from council that does in fact work that way. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but I'm also receptive to putting this off, until the next meeting to get some confirmation that the process that we're following is consistent with the way the bylaws are written. So I'm not sure what the pleasure of the board is, but I just want to throw that out there. I'm also willing to take a vote this evening, but I would want to have it contingent upon confirmation that it meets legal muster. So, there you go. I don't know if there's other.
I have to trust what the manager is saying, so I mean, if it's everyone's pleasure to have a town council look at it, so be it, but I would imagine that we were the executive board and we give its blessings, that I think it'd be off and running. I mean, I may be wrong, but that's how I would see it, but whatever the pleasure of the board is, obviously.
Open to conversation or a motion, for that matter.
Mr.
Well-
Manager's recommendation, obviously, we should just take a.
I don't, again, I think if the board wishes to get that confirmation from council, I can certainly have that conversation with John Foskett. Yeah, I don't know that it's absolutely necessary that the board take action this evening. I was actually thinking that perhaps the board would hear the presentation tonight, perhaps take it under advisement, and then take a vote at the meeting of the 23rd. So I certainly have no problem with doing that, and if this is a concern, I can confirm that information in the interim.
Thanks, Jeff.
So you basically would have it as a board to consider item on the next agenda?
Yes.
Essentially? Okay. Would that be okay with your meeting timelines?
I believe it would be okay.
I don't think it's going to interfere with the dog park, because the expectation is if, once we finalize the construction and install the various elements, that the grand opening would be sometime, I would say, early June, so with the board's next meeting on the 23rd.
It's just I don't know how long it would take to have the signs printed up, the rules, that's the
Right.
only thing to delay.
Well, I don't think the rules are gonna change.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, those can be
okay.
printed up.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's not, the substance of the rules isn't
Okay.
the
We just
question
wanna
here,
make
it's,
sure.
it's the mechanism for getting it in, right? I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, I guess we kind of need a motion, unless we just want to, we don't have to take a vote to continue it. So if we have agreement, or perhaps we ought to take a vote. I think I would feel comfortable knowing that we have a majority of this board with an agreement on the course of action. My feeling is the course of action ought to be, let's mull this over, let's give it some thought, let Jeff do some homework with council and put it before us in 2 weeks. That would be what I would like to recommend, but I would need a motion to that effect.
You want to table till the next meeting?
Yes, that's right.
I make a motion that we table it till the next meeting.
Second.
Have a second? A motion and a second. Is there additional discussion? See none. All in favor of that? Thank you. I think it's, it's academic here. I think you can probably blaze forward with the assumption that we're in good shape here. We just want to dot our i's and cross our t's.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. Appreciate the
Take care.
presentation.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question, I don't know if this is acceptable to the other members of the board and to the manager, but there's a board to consider article for the 5K race in memory of Tony Alenado, and I wanted to see if you would consider taking that out of order this evening, as we have members in the audience that are here specifically for that issue, and then, or item rather, and then we could take up the rest of the business, if that's okay.
I'm grateful to you bringing it up. Judy, I certainly have no objection. If there's a strong objection from anyone, I'd listen to it, but I see none. So thank you, Judy. I would appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And that said, there is a board to consider. Forgive me here.
It's number 6, and the
Six,
board to
thank you.
consider.
It's the request of
If we could just move that
Teresa.
up to the top.
Thank you, indeed. So we're moving 6 up before the 7:30 scheduled appointment. And that 6th item is board to consider request of Teresa Castellano to conduct a 5K road race in memory of Tony Alenado. So Jeff, I'll let you highlight the details here and give us any recommendations that perhaps that are available.
Yes, I'll just, so there was a letter submitted to the board. It's dated March 23rd. Just notes, last year a letter was sent on June 5th, 2015, requesting permission to hold a 5K road race in memory of our dear friend Tony Alenado, who died suddenly on April 22nd, 2015. We received permission at the June 22nd Board of Selectmen's meeting. Since that time, we have established a foundation known as the Tony Alenado Fund, Inc. The fundraising efforts of this foundation will provide some financial relief towards higher education expenses of Tony and Donna Alenardo's daughters, Sarah and Michelle. The fund will also continue Tony's legacy by providing annual scholarships to residents of Wilmington. The first annual Tony A 5K was held on Sunday, October 11th, 2015, and was a huge success. Please accept this letter as our formal request to hold the second annual Tony A 5K during Columbus Day weekend. We are aware that the church located across the street from the town common had an issue with the volume of music played by the DJ during the services. Therefore, we have two options we would like to be considered. The first being have the race on Sunday, October 9th. However, we would make sure the DJ stops playing the music when the Sunday services in church begin. Or second choice, have the road race on Saturday, October 8th. We'd like to use the same route as was used last year, and we will contact the police department as soon as we're granted permission by the Board of Selectmen. So the response from the police chief is favorable. One of the things I would just note, and it's one of the things that the chief and I have discussed, and it's certainly it's not specific to any one particular event, but I think we need to be mindful that the number of requests for these types of events has increased, and we're certainly prepared to support as many of them as we can, but we just have to be mindful that there is a cost associated with the police personnel to cover the routes and do the various things. So, and again, that's not to diminish this particular event. It certainly, I think, is a worthwhile event, but I just want to, make the board aware that we may have a point in time going forward where we have to consider limiting the number of 5K walks or runs or whatever that we're talking about, unless we, on the other end, look at increasing budgets to support these kind of things. But with regard to this event, the chief, as noted, is prepared to provide support to the event, and either date works. I might suggest perhaps the Saturday date, October 8th. As I understand it, if it was at the Saturday date, it would be a 9 a.m. start, or the Sunday date would be an 8 a.m. start, but is that correct? Okay.
Okay, so from the town's perspective, it's preferable for the Saturday event. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay. I want to give Ms. Castellano, you wrote the letter, so do you have, take a second to sort of pitch your project, or?
It was a huge success, and I don't know if any of you were there, but it was just overwhelming, and we just want to continue it. It's a great tribute to Tony,
Indeed.
his daughters, his whole family, the whole community. It was a great tribute. So.
Thank you. Thanks for running it last year and for being here again today, and I'm confident we'll have some support for you here. So certainly questions from the board here. Why don't I start, Ms. O'Connell?
Just pleased to have you here tonight. Thank you very much for taking this on. I know Tony meant so much to all of you that are in the room tonight, and so many people that you are affiliated with in town. So anything that I can do to support this as you memorialize your friend and a valued member of our community, I'm more than supportive. So thank you.
No, just echo what Selectman Connell said. I'm definitely in favor of it and support it. I know the Castellano family for years. I knew your dad had the nice bakery there at Lucci's years ago, and your grandmother Nora worked there. You are wonderful people, and I think this is a great cause. And right? Thank you. Yep.
Mr. Garrett?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of this, and it's a great tribute to Tony, and it's great that you're keeping his memory alive and raising these funds to help out students and the family. That's great.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Mr. Benton?
Thank you. Thank you, folks, for being here. Obviously, this is a great event. I'm obviously in favor of it as well. I think it's terrific. It's really what Wilmington's all about, people coming together for a great cause, and certainly a great cause it is. And although, excuse me, I'm in favor of it, the Saturday does give me one less day to train, so I'll have to get started sooner than later. But I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for all your hard work on this.
Hey, you can run for me, man.
Okay.
Unless I can bring a paramedic, you know.
So, very well. All questions have been lobbed out, or comments have been lobbed out. Again, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. We wish you great success for the event as well as for the students, so thank you. So that said, I certainly will welcome a motion.
I'll make a motion that we support the Tony A 5K road race on Saturday, October 8th, provided that there's no conflicts at that
That's right.
area.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. I think we've had enough discussion. All in favor? It's unanimous. Good luck, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Good evening. Judy, thanks for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate that. So that brings us to our 7:30 scheduled appointment, which is the reorganization of the Board of Selectmen. This time of year, we engage as members of this board to decide who will be its chair. And I was very grateful and honored at this time last year to have been nominated and voted by my colleagues to sit in this seat for the last year. Take a moment of personal privilege. I want to make sure that everyone knows that they will have ample time to have their voice heard this evening. But I guess one of the upsides of being as chair is you get to talk first. So I will. The year has been interesting, I guess I will say, in a positive and a challenging way. We've accomplished quite a bit this year. I think we identified some challenges early on upon my taking responsibility as chairman. And I'm proud to say that in spite of those challenges, or even because of those challenges, we were able to institute and implement some solutions and put in place some programs, some policies that were necessary, I think, and that will guide our successors in these seats going forward. So I'm proud of that work. It's also been a fairly remarkable year, at least in my experience on this board, but also experience just watching local civics, where we had two long-standing, established, well-respected members of the Board of Selectmen both choose not to re-up their campaigns. And so they left this board, and we now find ourselves, I think, in a very positive spot with two freshman selectmen, if I dare say that. And that is, as I stated already, it is a positive. I'm very, very grateful and emboldened by our newest members. But I have to draw attention to the fact that they are, in fact, new members. And while they've both been watching local politics and local government for many years together, the fact is that there is a rhythm to the way these meetings run and to the way that communication operates in the community, the way that the Board of Selectmen interacts with the town manager's office and the staff. And it's my heartfelt feeling that given the circumstances with two new selectmen on board and a number of projects afoot, that there is an argument that could be made, and I guess I'm indirectly making that argument, for continuity or consistency, to maintain the direction and the flow that we have established over the course of the last year, to allow our newest members to get on board fully into that flow and be full participants, to learn from the other members and ultimately allow us all to be performing at our best for the benefit of the people of Wilmington. And that is, at the end of the day, why we're all here. And that is exactly my intent. So with all of that being said, I offer it as a humble request for you, my colleagues, to consider me as your chairman for another year. It is not without precedent that we've had members sit in the chairman's seat for more than 1 year in a row. And I think the circumstances that I've just highlighted bear out why I believe it's prudent in this case. So I offer that out, and I will shut up now, and I'll turn my direction to whoever wants to speak first.
Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly not in opposition of your chairmanship. You've done a yeoman's job in this position, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the residents do as well. But I would like to place in nomination the name of Judy O'Connell for the position of chairman of the board.
Very well, thank you. So we've got a nomination there, obviously open to additional discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
thank you. I appreciate your kind words, and the freshman selectmen have been called much worse, so I'm fine with that. But I also am in agreement that there are several good choices off here, and I'm certainly excluding myself, obviously. I'm confident in several candidates up here for the board, and I appreciate all you've done over the last year. But I'll second Kevin's motion.
Very well. So you had put in a nomination, so may I accept that as a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. At that point, I would offer up opportunity for discussion.
I'd like to make a comment. I think Judy would do good as a chairperson. She's had it before. I know you've done a great job, Mr. Champu, as chairperson, and obviously I tend to support whatever the board decides to do. I mean, if you were looking for it for another year, I'd have no issue giving it to you. I don't have an issue with, giving it to Judy, and I just make that clear, that's all. So whatever the direction is of the board at that time. I'd like to hear from Judy if she has any comments.
Yeah, Ms. O'Connell, I was presumptuous. I should have asked you if you were...
No, that's okay. I just, I certainly appreciate the nomination, and I appreciate the second. I certainly will graciously accept those if that's the pleasure of the majority of the board when the vote's taken. Certainly, I appreciate your candor, Mr. Champu, in terms of your feelings of wanting the position. Certainly, I think that we can work collectively as a group. We may not agree on everything, but I think, this 5-member board certainly has the ability to work together on all issues, regardless of who's in that seat. And I think as long as we all keep focused on the business of the town, I think that we'll all be aiming in the right direction. Once again, doesn't mean we're all going to vote the same on things or see things the same way. But, it would be an honor to be in that role, but I certainly appreciate, your willingness to step up and take that position as well. But I would certainly accept the nomination.
Well, thank you. We have a nomination and a second, and I think unless there's anything else going on here, we ought to take the vote. So all in favor of posting Judy as our chairman for the subsequent year? I'll vote with you. I want to be a team player. Judy, congratulations. We're happy to have you. And this is that awkward moment where we stand up and trade seats, so. I'll take that.
So once again, thank you very much. Certainly, I look forward to a very productive year as chairman, and I'd like to keep an open communication with all of you. If there's anything specific that you want to speak about and have placed on the agenda, certainly you know how to contact me and work through the manager's office together to make sure that all the important topics and items that we need to discuss as a board are put on our agendas going forward, and certainly in a timely manner. So with that being said, I would like to resume the meeting and step right into communications. And I'd like to turn it over to the manager. I believe our top communications are where we're at item number 5. Thank you.
So under communications, the first item is a memorandum from the Recreation Director regarding the rules and regulations. As you know, we discussed that previously, so I won't review that again. Next is correspondence from Devin Elizabeth Williams from the Mass Municipal Association. This is regarding an upcoming Massachusetts Selectmen's Association meeting. It will be held, it's a regional meeting held in Boston at the MMA's office on May 18th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. If any member of the board is interested in participating in that, please let Beverly in my office know, and she can make arrangements to sign you up. Next, we have correspondence from Mr. Ronald DeGiorgio and John Rauno. This is with regard to their expressing interest in serving as constables, which this correspondence was previously received. We also have correspondence from James Trombley, Republican Town Committee Chair, notifying him that Priscilla Ward her term on the Republican Town Committee was due to expire, and seeking any comment. As I mentioned at a prior meeting, we have not received any comment. And that is it under correspondence.
Okay, moving right into the board to consider, I appreciate the indulgence of the board in doing the Alenado 5K up front. So at this point, I believe we're at the Sharon George item number 7.
Yes, so Sharon George has submitted a letter, a memo recommending the appointment of additional election workers, specifically Sandra Volpe, Audrey Reed, Sandra Cosman, and Janice LaCasa.
Okay, any questions, comments, or motion?
Make a motion to accept the names mentioned as election workers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Next under the board to consider is appointments and reappointments. These are appointments that are made by the board. And if you would like, Madam Chair, I can take them up individually, and you can vote on them individually, or what is the pleasure of the...
What I'd like to suggest is if you take them up in their entirety, and if anyone has an issue with that we could, speak to that through the motion process.
Okay. So first is Animal Control Officer, 1-year appointment to expire in 2017. Christopher H. Sullivan. I would just note that on your memorandum, you'll see some of these positions are asterisked, and this represents new appointments. Board of Appeals, a 5-year term to expire 2021, Charles Boyle. Board of Registrar, 3-year term to expire 2019, Priscilla Ward. Cable TV Advisory Task Force, Kendra Amaral, George Breslin, Neil Ellis, Sean Neville, and Kendra Rosette. Council for the Arts, 2-year term to expire 2018, Louise Anderson, Ruth Camber, Jane Crane, Stephen Greco. And then Council for the Arts Advisory Board, 1-year term to expire 2017, Jean Chang. Fence Viewer, 1-year term to expire June 30, 2017, Paul Aluni and John Spalding. Town Council, 1-year term to expire June 30, 2017, John Foskett as the representative from Deutsch, Williams, Brooks, Durensis, and Holland, PC. And then Constables, 1-year term to expire 2017. And I would note that the individuals that you see on the memo with asterisk, they have restrictions not to solicit clients. They have authority to serve civil process in the town. So first of all, Jason Costa, Alan Hunter, Charles Rooney Jr., and those with the restrictions, John Bridges, Paul Bruce Jr., Ronald D. Giorgio, Dennis Otis, William Pepicelli, John Rowan, and Anthony Saya. I would also note that for purposes of the constable function, that Christopher Sullivan, it would be only in conjunction with his duties as animal control officer. And then recommendations specifically with regard to the constable appointments. The police chief has indicated the Wilmington Police Department has completed a review of the following individuals who it is anticipated may request appointment or reappointment to the position of constable to the town of Wilmington. A recommendation of favorable approval is suggested for each individual listed. Jason Costa, Alan Hunter, Charles Rooney Jr. Appointment with restrictions not to solicit clients in the town of Wilmington, but have authority to serve civil process for clients who need service into the town. John Bridges Jr., Paul Bruce Jr., Ronald DiGiorgio, Dennis Otis, William Pepicelli, John Rowan, and Anthony Saya.
Thank you. So at this time, all of the reappointments have been read into the record by the manager. At this time, do we have any questions or comments, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to reappoint all the individuals as described by the town manager relative to our reappointments tonight as selectmen.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
These next appointments are appointments subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. So appointments that I would make subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. First of all, under Commission on Disabilities, we currently have two positions with vacancies for terms to expire in 2019. I would note you'll see some of these going forward, both here and in my appointments, and my plan is to advertise, make notice, if you will, both via the town's website and various other outlets about the availability of these positions, and then as people submit letters of interest, I will review them and come back to the board with any recommendations. On a Commission on Disabilities, term to expire 2018. Again, there's a vacancy in that position. With regard to Historical Commission, a 3-year term to expire 2019. There are two openings there. The first being Bonnie Smith, who has expressed interest in being reappointed, and I have granted that subject to the board's approval. And then Steve Lawrenson, who had been a member, has elected not to seek reappointment, so there's a vacancy there. And then finally, with regard to the Permanent Building Committee, it's a 3-year term to expire in 2019. Joseph Perella Jr. Again, I've appointed him subject to the board's approval.
Okay, so this list has been read into the record by the manager. Any questions or comments or a motion?
I make a motion that we reappoint those individuals as described by the town manager.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for discussion. Anything further? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Then the last items to consider or to review are the appointments that I am making, or appointments, reappointments. First of all, for the position of Animal Inspector, it's a 1-year term to expire 2017, Christopher Sullivan. Building Inspector, 1-year term to expire 2017, John Spalding, and then Peter Maggie as the local inspector. To the positions of Carter Lecture Fund Committee, 3-year term to expire 2019, Barbara Bishop and Adele Passmore. To a term as on the Cemetery Commission, this is a 3-year term to expire 2019. Cynthia McHugh. To the Conservation Commission, a 3-year term to expire 2019, Michael McInnes and Donald Pearson. There is one vacancy. Mr. Charles Rooney III was expressed his interest in not being reappointed, so this will be another post that I will be seeking interested applicants. Under Elderly Services Commission, 3-year term to expire 2019. We have one vacancy again. Jeanette Albert is not seeking reappointment. Thomas F. Mills and Gail Protopappas both have been appointed to 3-year terms. Under the Electrical Inspector, 1-year term to expire 2017. Frederick Sutter and Arthur T. Kelly as the alternate. Gas Inspector, 1-year term to expire 2017, Paul Raffey, and then John Mytek as the alternate. Board of Health, a 3-year term. There is a vacancy there. That term will expire in 2019. Library Trustees, 3-year term to expire 2019, Jeffrey Nussbaum and Donald Pearson. Planning Board, 5-year term to expire 2021, Sean Hennigan. Plumbing Inspector, 1-year term to expire 2017, Paul Raffey and John Mytek as the alternate. Public Weighers, 1-year term to expire 2017, Paul Anderson, Kenneth Heffron, Stefan Stella, and David Shagru. Recreation Commission, 3-year term to expire 2017, Charles Biondo, and we do have a vacancy. Michael Kennedy had served in the position, and we'll be looking to fill that vacancy.
That's 2019, correct, Jeff, on that
That's
one?
right,
Yeah, okay.
2019. Trustee of Trust Funds, term to expire 2018, Penny Lynn Dudley. Veterans Agent, 1-year term to expire 2017, Louis Semeglia. Veterans Grave Officer, 1-year term to expire 2017, Louis Semeglia. And Water and Sewer Commission, a 3-year term to expire 2019, Joseph Valero. Then we have Auxiliary Police Officers, 3-year term to expire 2019, Stephen Kane, Mario DeMecco, Charles Holmes Sr., Bradford Notner, and then Wire Inspector, 1-year term to expire 2017, Frederick Sutter with Arthur Kelly as the alternate.
Thank you. So all the town managers' appointments and reappointments for 2016 and beyond have been read into the record at this time. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Or would anyone like to make a motion?
I just have one question. Could you explain what the trustee of the trust funds are, or what that is? I can get everything else here, but I was just wondering what that was.
Yes, so that deals with the funds that we have on bank accounts with regard to various trusts that may be set up for different organizations. So right now, Pam McKenzie, the treasurer, serves in one post. Mike Morris, who is the town accountant, and then Penny Lynn, who has just been appointed to the assistant treasurer's position, would fill out that post.
Anything further? Okay, hearing no further questions or comments, would anyone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, if I could say, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe we have the authority to ratify these appointments under the Town Charter, Town Manager Act. I believe he alone makes these appointments, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong.
That is correct. This is just announcing these appointments, so there is no need for the board to
Ratify.
take a vote on these.
Fair enough, thank you. Okay, moving on to public comments. Seeing none. Moving on to new business and committee reports, and I'll start to my right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple quick things. Last week, I had the good fortune to go to a couple nice events put on by the Chamber of Commerce and others, and one in particular, last Monday, some of my colleagues were there as well, as the Welcome to Wilmington event. I just wanted to compliment those who put it on, Tina Stewart in the library, Nancy Valley, and those members of the Chamber of Commerce. It was a nice event to meet some of the newest residents of Wilmington, and certainly want to welcome them to our community. And also, just one other thing, I know that the manager is going to bring this up under important dates, but I would want to also take the time to urge people, if they can, to be there on May 17th at St. Thomas Church, where there'll be the Navigating the Conversation About Substance Abuse event, and I think that this is a very important event. I went to the one this past October, the If Only presentation. It was certainly worthwhile. There was an overwhelming outpouring of residents coming together, and as I said a couple weeks ago publicly, that certainly I don't have any solutions to this problem, but I believe that it's a conversation that needs to be had all the time amongst everybody. If we come together, then hopefully some good will come out of it. So I hope that everyone will join me and my wife at being at the St. Thomas Church on May 17th for a great cause.
Thank you.
Yeah, I attended the Welcome to Wilmington event as well at the Wilmington Public Library. It was a great event. And also, the small business event that was held at Tremezzo's. I was there along with Mr. Shampoo and Mr. Bendel, put on by the Chamber of Commerce in Nancy Valley, and that was quite a take, and it was good to see so many people there. It was excellent.
Great,
Yep.
thank you. Moving on to Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, I'm going to congratulate you, Madam Chair, of being appointed the chairperson to guide us in the upcoming year. I'm looking on behalf of working on your behalf, as well as the entire membership, especially the two members and Mr. Shampoo, on the best interest of the community. And I know from time to time we'll agree to disagree, but I do need a few minutes, Madam Chair, if I could, relative to the town meeting. I just would like to stay focused on something, and I'd be remiss if I did not say this. I would like to go on the record. Everything I stated at town meeting regarding Selectman O'Connell, Selectman Newhouse was 100% accurate and truthful. That
Madam
Article
Chair,
41
Madam Chair, I have a
was...
point of order in this regard. I don't know that this is relevant, or that maybe it should be put on an agenda item, so that if Selectman McCoy is going to mention individuals that are not here, so that they can discuss it as well. I think it should be put on an agenda item
Madam Chair,
for an open meeting.
If I could say, we're not the school committee where you have to beg Chairperson Kane to get on the agenda. That's what she does. I served on this board for a while, I would believe that.
You bring up things relative to the school committee that are really not relevant.
That's what Selectman
That's not what
Kyra
he's saying.
stated.
He's simply
Putting
stating
on an
that
agenda item.
if I may, please, your comments technically are out of order. They're not an agenda topic. If you want to have a discussion relative to this, I'm happy to put it on the agenda for you to discuss it. If you want to continue to make accusations and make statements, you want to have this discussion. I did not want to do this. I was waiting to see if this could we had our say at town meeting. You decided to take the floor. I don't understand why this is coming up today. You had your shots, you had your ambush at town meeting, you said what you said, the people that were there had an opportunity to speak, you had the mic again, and you're continuing now to bring this up again for debate. I'm happy to have this conversation. The fact that you're just paying attention to this now, after 9 months later, and you want to have a public discussion about it when this already happened on June 22nd of 2015 to a meeting that almost took 4 hours in length, and you want to do that, I'm happy to put it front and center on an agenda, and we can bring everybody back. We can invite Michael Kyra, we can invite Jimmy Stewart, we can invite Michael Newhouse, we can invite Mr. Peterson, we can invite Mr. Doherty, we can have you present, we can have Lou Samaglia present, we can have Sharon George present, we can have the town manager present, we can have the assistant town manager present, and we can do this again and have this full discussion. I have no issues with a transparent discussion. It happened then. we can do it now. I personally think it's wasteful of the town's time. I think this is the people's seats, this is the people's time. If you want to do that, to launch a personal campaign against me for whatever reason, I don't know what I've ever done. I mean, it wasn't only even a month ago that you were saying that this 5-member board at that time was the best board that you had ever served with in all of your years. We had no less than 20 meetings together to have these discussions, not one phone call, not one email, not one conversation. We had 3 selectmen meetings where we went over the entire warrant, not one comment about Article 41. We also had a public meeting for the joint efforts of the Finance Committee and the Planning Board, which you didn't attend, I did, and you didn't bring it up in a public session then. And you take the time during town meeting, which you have said is sacred, mind you, after you give an offering to Mr. Newhouse in your closing remarks of how remarkable he is, and then you basically character assassinate the both of us in an open forum that with no facts and baseless accusations, I think is just poor form, disrespectful, and is factless. My rapport with all of the parties that are involved are very positive. We came out of that meeting with a mutual understanding. Every single person in that room, including myself, took responsibility for what occurred and offered comments about how they could have done things better. We all moved on from it. We all let it lie. We developed something that was for the betterment of the town of Wilmington. And I will say that I don't think that your actions at town meeting were acting in the best interest of the town of Wilmington. They were self-serving for you. I don't know if it's because you had no problem calling me privately to ask me to support a Board of Appeals member for you. You had no problem calling me to ask you to support chairmanship. And then, you think it's because I didn't get what I wanted, in terms of finance committee appointments. I was talking about process. I was talking about communications. I was talking about the timeliness in which things were done. It wasn't about people or personalities. It had nothing to do with that. So, I don't know where this is coming from, Michael, but quite frankly, I don't want to continue to do this for the next year. I don't want to argue with you about anything. But I will tell you, I am not going to sit here and be attacked by you verbally and not defend myself. It's my personal right, it's my character and my integrity, and I am not going to allow you to attack that publicly and not stand up for myself. I'm just not.
Let me just make a comment about that. I'm not going to read this right now this second, but I did state a couple of meetings ago that it was perhaps with Mr. Newhouse and Mr. Somaglia, one of the best boards I've served. I've served on the board for a while, and I still stand by that. But we're going to have agreement to disagreement. But if you want to summons everyone in, you already had that dog and pony show several months ago when you summoned the FinCom in. Jimmy Stewart was already here. All those players that you talked about was here.
That's right.
Okay? They were here. It was a dog and pony show that you put on, banging the table because you folks weren't happy. Okay, but yet, shame on me to bring this up months later, but everything I stated at town meeting was 100% accurate. Everything at town meeting had to deal with Article 41. And folks out there, please, don't think that everything's all, Article 41, just some simple housekeeping. A lot of things happen behind the scenes. Absolutely happen behind the scenes. And I stand by everything I said, but I'm not gonna allow you or anybody to quiet me down. But, in fairness to everybody, if you wanna have another dog and pony show, because you already had it, by all means, have it again. I'm not afraid to speak to anyone else in the audience. I'll save this, but I expect to be heard on this, and I'll do that. And don't think for a moment, Judy, that I'm going to be debating you every meeting, at every meeting. I don't do that, all right? This is something you firmly believe in. I'll say it again. That was nothing but a dog and pony show months ago that you orchestrated. That you talk about embarrassing members of the FinCom and et cetera. But I'll put off. I want to show that I'm a team player and work with folks, and I'll say it again. Mr. Newhouse was perhaps one of the most outstanding, best selectmen. I can say that with no reservation, but yet I'm not supposed to do my job and talk about other things. Absolutely, that's what I was voted for.
I don't have an issue with you having concerns. I think the manner in which you took it up is what I have an issue with, because you had ample opportunity.
Yeah, but everything I
up to
talked
that
about
point.
had to deal with Article 41. And once again, folks, it wasn't like a simple housekeeping and that in the town meeting gave its blessings. A lot happened behind the scenes, during its time and afterwards. So I brought that up, and I'm not no loose cannon here. I brought up everything factual, but I respect the fact that you want to wait till another meeting. And like I said, not a shot at the school committee, but that's what Chairman Kane does. She has to have people,
I'm gonna
and I
rule
hope it
comments
isn't, I
out of
hope
order.
it
I'm
does
not
not,
gonna allow
but I
you
hope
to
that
talk
does
about
not
it.
happen about your chairmanship, that we have to get on the agenda. I'll go with this one here,
No, I want to do
absolutely.
that as an open, transparent item to
Yeah.
invite these people, so they don't have to sit
Absolutely.
here every meeting
No.
to wonder when you're gonna
No,
bring something
I
up.
was, all intentions of bringing
So
this up
that's
tonight,
only-
and then
that's
as
a
far as I was
courtesy
concerned,
to
that,
them.
it was done, over, I was gonna bring it, there was
It's
more
obviously
information I
not
was gonna
over.
bring, huh?
It's obviously not over.
No, I had more information I wanted to add to this, that's
Okay.
all, because I was only given like less than 3 minutes, but you had an open mic for hours. You had an open mic for hours, where you had more than one meeting. So I only had a quick 3-minute soundbite at the town
We
meeting.
had a meeting, but unfortunately you weren't able to attend, which is understandably so. I understand that you had medical issues, which we all do, and I understand that, and that's not a shot at you, but you weren't able to be there. We had that meeting, it took place without you.
No, you're right, and I could have, at a following meeting, brought that up at that time,
Correct.
but I didn't. It was
Correct.
not until recently that the Board of Selectmen decided to introduce this Article 41, because it was the Board of Selectmen's article. And I looked at it and said, you know, I wrestled with it. And I didn't, and believe me, and I'm not gonna talk about it, I didn't wake up Saturday morning and say, you know, what do I wanna do today? Hoots and giggles, let me bring this up. I didn't do
You
that.
orchestrated it, wrote it, timed
know?
it, and it was a divisive plan, and
No.
it was basically
Yeah,
a
but
public ambush,
I'll bring this,
so.
but, you know, I'll be
That's how you
respectful.
want to, that's how you want to
No.
carry your conduct, that's fine.
No.
We all have choices, as I said that day.
I would hope to think that, hey,
I'm
you're doing
happy
your
to put
job,
it
I'm
on.
doing my job, but a lot has happened relative to 41, and that's what,
That's fine.
but I'll put it off another time if you want to have that as an agenda item, but I
No,
hope that
I
we
will put it
don't.
on if you want to put it on as an agenda item. You
Well, you're not
decide.
allowing me to speak this now, and I mean, I could say, well, all right, let me just give out to the press after the meeting, maybe that's the best thing I should really do, but I wanted to bring up some other, but, you know, I don't have an issue if you want to bring it up at the next meeting, so be it. You know, we'll have another dog and pony show if that's what you want to bring those folks in, and I had all intentions of speaking on it, and after that, this was it, but I'm sure I'll be hearing from different folks, because I know certain times, certain things are on speed dial from up on this podium here, but that's okay, and I look forward to working with you, Judy. I sincerely mean that, and with all the new membership and everybody, you know, so, you know, that's fine, we can put that off if that's what you want to do.
I'm giving
I
you the
respect that.
opportunity to put it on an agenda. If you want it put on, I'm sure you'll let me know.
Yep. Well, no, I'm letting you know right now that I'll be respectful right now at the moment, but I just hope this doesn't turn, we have to put items on the agenda to speak our piece, because that's what we get elected for.
I
you
understand
know?
that, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
being clear with you, I'm being respectful of the other people that didn't have the benefit of being in the room tonight to have this
I
conversation.
understand, I don't need folks' endorsements out there, the only endorsement I want is the voters, and that's it. So I think I do represent folks out there as much as you and the whole entire membership, and I'm not looking for a Donnybrook at every single meeting, that's not how I operate, but absolutely, this was relevant, and once again, it was not a simple housekeeping, folks. A lot happened in Article 41, and that's what I was talking about, Article 41, but
A lot did happen relative to 41, and it happened 9 months ago. And we moved on from it. But if you want to revisit it, we can revisit it. I have no problem with that. We're just not doing it tonight. So you decide and let me
I'll be
know.
respectful of that. I'm saying is, and I don't,
you
it
have
doesn't
any
matter if
other
there's one person, no,
comments
I don't,
relative
it doesn't
to-
matter if there's one person in the room or 100, so whatever you
Do you have
want to
any
do,
other
so be it.
comments besides?
No, that was it, and once again, congratulations on the
Thank you.
chairmanship, that's all. And you're right, I didn't have a problem calling relative to showing interest in the chairmanship, which I didn't think I would get anyway. And number two, relative the town, the appointment of, Board of Appeals member, so I would hope to think I could still call folks.
You can call
relative
me
to town
anytime.
issue. I know that. No, I know.
I'm just speaking to the fact
And you
that
always get back to me, not a
I
question.
absolutely did. I'm
No.
just explaining to you that, your disenchantment with everything and relative to myself and a former selectman kind of came out of left field, because in no way, shape, or form did your conduct and demeanor and your conversations with us at any point in time gave any indication, but you made sure that you had the most sacred event that you've termed a town meeting to take that on, and I see that as an underlying factor, but,
Well, we'll agree to disagree, and by all means, if you
We
want to put this on
absolutely
agenda,
disagree.
that's fine, but I appreciate the moment in time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Shampoo?
Thank you. There's a lot of meat on the bone there to chew on. If this becomes an agenda item, and I think if it's something that needs to be, or has a desire by either of you to be spoken about in addition or again in the future, I think it's appropriate that it be an agenda item, specifically for the reason that Judy stated, which is that if, Mr. McCoy, if you are going to identify individuals that participated in a process for identifying and appointing finance committee members, or anything else for that matter. The people that were involved in that process ought to have the opportunity to be present to speak to any observations or maybe even accusations that they get lobbed out. In the absence of their ability to be here, stuff gets lobbed out and it just sits out there in the blogosphere, and it gains momentum, whether it's true, not true, or otherwise. And so if it's something that you feel committed to having a conversation about, I would encourage you to speak with the chairwoman and identify those individuals that you intend to be speaking about in your dissertation, so that we can make arrangements, so she can make arrangements to have those folks in the room. That's one observation I made. The other thing is about this dog and pony show that I've heard referred to. That dog and pony show happened when I was chairman, admittedly when I was a new chairman. And I'm offended by the notion it was a dog and pony show. It was anything but. And it certainly, I can tell you, by virtue of the fact that I was chairman, that it wasn't orchestrated by Ms. O'Connell, Mr. Newhouse, or anybody else other than me and the town manager. There was feedback and input offered and suggestions made, and it was my belief, and at the time, the town moderator's belief, and the chairman of the finance committee's belief that the town would be best served by having an open, transparent, very candid conversation about the process that had been followed for decades and the process that was followed last year. And nobody, including me, who was involved in that process, can make the argument that that process went swimmingly. It wasn't, in my strongest opinion, it was not in any way, shape, or form intentional or nefarious or had ill intent, but rather it was inefficient. And we recognized that. And through that analysis, and because of that inefficiency, it was only then and after then that we discovered, with assistance of town council, that there were ambiguities in the bylaws in the with reference to the appointing committee that appoints finance committee members. So it was housekeeping, language fixing in Article 41 that needed to come before the town meeting body. But last year, when we had a full room, and regrettably you couldn't be here, I presume you were watching and trying to stay up to speed as to what was going on, even in your absence. That was done on purpose, in the open and public. Very few conversations were had in back rooms or behind the scenes, intentionally, because those backroom private conversations, once there's 3 members of this board that have them, that constitutes a majority of this board, and they would have to happen in open session. And so we resisted, and we did not engage in those conversations, which is tough sometimes, because you have the opportunity sometimes when you have people in the room, you want to have the conversation, but you have to thwart yourself, you have to stop yourself, because you are ipso facto violating open meeting law if you engage in those conversations, or if you make multiple phone calls on the same subject with fellow members. So we didn't do that. We waited, and it took a little while, and it was painful at times. But it was transparent and visible, and it was in no way a dog and pony show. At the end of that whole process, the town benefited because we now have a process and a procedure that Ms. O'Connell, as the new chairperson of this committee, and any future chairperson of this committee, and the town moderator and town manager and chair of the finance committee, whoever they may be, have a process that they can follow that is not subjective. It's not based on someone's interpretation of what has been done for 20 years. It's etched in paper and codified. So I stand by how that whole process went. It was not, I would not have chosen it to go that way, but I'm glad that at the end of it, it was a positive. And so I guess I'm challenged in the same way that Judy is, that the observations that you've made at town meeting and again tonight, Mr. McCoy, that it was somehow a bag job or I don't know, a circumstance orchestrated, maybe, by either Mr. Newhouse or anybody else. It just isn't the case, and I'm frustrated to have you to hear you say that. It just strikes me as disingenuous. You had 20-something, 22 meetings, I don't know what the number is, to bring those points up, and they weren't brought up. So I'm frustrated. I was frustrated, and frankly, I was embarrassed on behalf of the Board of Selectmen with the way you conducted yourself at town meeting. Not to suggest that any individual on this board or anyone at town meeting doesn't have the right to have their opinion heard. Given the context of everything that I just said, I was frustrated. And I do hope that this comes up as an agenda item, because I'd like to re-echo some of what I stated.
I just want to make a comment on that if I can, Madam Chair. I'm not going to be reading from a script here, but obviously we're entitled to our opinions. But obviously, when you got up at the town meeting, you are like the peacekeeper. I've noticed that here. You try to keep the peace, okay? But you never deny what I stated about you and I and the town manager being in the room. I'm not going to even bring this up, but look in my eyes. Look in my eyes, Michael. Look in my eyes and tell me that when we were in executive session, you and I and the town manager, that everyone's denying, they ran to the hills. Mr. Newhouse and O'Connell didn't threaten him relative to his job. Why do you think he asked for 8 more months under the category of termination? Look in my eyes and tell me that I'm lying.
Listen, I'm not going to be challenged to
No,
look in
just tell
anybody's
me I'm
eyes.
lying. If you say I am, then
Look,
I'm not going to even bring this up.
you may have a memory of events, and you're certainly entitled to that. And we're off the grid here, but you've asked me a question that I feel compelled to respond to. I can categorically say that I don't remember Mr. Hull saying the words threatened. Now, I will absolutely agree, and I would be willing to bet that Mr. Hull would, and I'd certainly invite him to chime in if he cares to. There's no doubt that there were members of our board last year that observed and had some criticisms of some of the handlings of the Finance Committee appointment process, the communication process, and maybe a couple other operational observations that they needed to articulate to Mr. Hull. Did it mean that they were out for his job? Did it mean that they were gunning for him to get out of the seat? No. You know what? We were in negotiations, and that the process of negotiation is that we, the Board of Selectmen, wanted to get the most we could for the best deal for the people of Wilmington. And Jeff, to his credit, and I would not have expected him to do any different, wanted to get the best deal that he could for himself and his family. And we negotiated in executive session, because that's where negotiations do happen, and that's appropriate to the law. Jeff may have indicated that he felt a certain level of pressure, and I don't want to speak for Jeff. He's here, and he can speak for himself if he cares to. But the way I inferred it, the way I interpreted those communications was that Jeff indeed felt a level of pressure from members of this board. I don't ever recall the word threatened. If I did, I would look you in the eye and say I heard the word, and I don't remember hearing it. I don't think it was stated. I think you have a little bit of a selective interpretation, and you might be inserting that commentary in there. That's my observation. I stand by that as well, and I'm frustrated again that comes up. It's out of context. At the end of the day, we had a 5-member board that voted unanimously to confirm Jeff's appointment for a 3-year contract. Unanimous consent. Where was that commentary that you saved for town meeting and again uttered tonight? Where was that commentary over the past 22 months? Yeah, I'm the peacekeeper, and you know what? I take great pride in being non-confrontational and non-adversarial. I've been criticized in my life, professionally, personally, and on this board, by members of this board, for not being tough enough. And frankly, if that's the worst criticism that people ever lob at me, I'll tell you what, I think I'm doing a fairly decent job. I like to be the peacemaker. I like to seek out the opportunity to find common ground. But I'm challenged in my inclination to be a peaceful, calm person. I'm challenged with some of the innuendos and insinuations that are being made.
And I'll just say, Madam Chair, I'm done with it. I understand. And I can understand a town manager, somebody looking to get more money or vacation time. But when someone looks for 8 more months under the termination clause, that tells me a little bit something. You were there, I'll end it, and once again, if you say I'm lying, just look at my face with no repercussion, say I'm lying, and then I'll end everything right now.
Well, I just want to interject because I didn't want to be
No.
silencing the
But you
both
never
of you
denied it at the
on
town meeting,
mic.
Mr. Shampoo, but, all right, I'm done with that,
but-
it's fine, I hear you.
Neither here nor there. I know, since I was, the person being accused of doing that, I know that I didn't threaten anybody, so I'm very clear on that. And I feel very confident that Mr. Newhouse didn't either. But we can certainly revisit this, as I said. I think the conversation has gone on. There's a delicate balance between silencing people and knowing when it's best to move on. We certainly, as I said, the invitation stands. If you want to put it on as an agenda item, we can have this as a full-blown discussion beyond what has occurred here tonight. It's a fine line between giving people personal privilege and then moving on from that. So I wanted to give you some latitude, but I'd like to bring those comments to a close. Certainly, Jeff, at any point in time, if you feel that you want to make commentary, I will move into important dates. If you choose to make any additional comments on the front end or the back end, certainly feel free to do so.
Judy, I got stuck on that stuff, and if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Bendel brought up the session that's going to happen on the 17th, and I don't want to be repetitious, but given the intensity and the severity of the subject matter, I want to restate what Mr. Bendel said, and that is the navigating the conversation about substance abuse with your child and your loved ones. It's being held at St. Thomas Church. It's not a religious event. It happens to be happening inside St. Thomas Church because that's a venue that fits the people, but it is not it's not connected to the Roman Catholic Church. So I want everyone, irrespective of what your faith component is in your life, or even if you have one, to consider attendance at this. If there are people in your life whom you love, whether they be young people or older folks or people in your home, there's so much information becoming available and so many experts that are becoming, again, available to the community. I don't think that we can do enough in this space to bring awareness, not only of the problem, but also educate people about some ways that it can be mitigated, not only to get in front of and hopefully stop the problem from occurring in your homes, but also to help those individuals who fall, who do succumb to it. So let me just, again, insist that folks try to carve out an hour and a half to 2 hours on Tuesday, May 17th from 7:30 p.m. for St. Thomas. And there will be obviously more observations, more opportunities to see that information publicized. So thank you, Ms. O'Connell.
Sure, thank you. Jeff?
This whole issue that came up at town meeting and then again tonight, I really, it certainly blindsided me as to what the purpose was, but let me just, first of all, be very clear that during this past year, as in the lead up to my contract expiration, there was no member of the Board of Selectmen that verbally threatened my future employment. I'm not sure where that, what the basis of that is. I would just say that relationships, whether they're marital, business, personal, or employer-employee, can sometimes become strained and require effort to work through the differences. During a portion of the year in 2015, my relationship with a couple members of the board was strained. I think that's fair to say. Fortunately, we had the maturity and desire to work through those difficulties, and to the best of my knowledge, those relationships are in a better place. Beyond that, I don't have anything further on that point.
Thank you. Important dates?
Important dates, we have May 12th, Behavioral Health Provider Fair, Wilmington Middle School, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. May 13th, Good Guy Award Dinner. May 14th, the Household Hazardous Waste Day, West Intermediate School parking lot, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. May 17th, as was previously noted, Navigating the Conversation about Substance Abuse, in plain sight. St. Thomas's of Villanova Church, 126 Middlesex Ave, 7:30 PM to 9 PM. May 22nd, Pan Mass Challenge Kids Ride, Carter Lane, 8 AM to 1 PM. May 23rd is the next Board of Selectmen's meeting here, room 9, 7 PM. May 30th, Memorial Day Parade begins at 10 AM. Ceremony at the Wildwood Cemetery, 11 AM. Town Hall and town offices will be closed. June 3rd and 4th, Council for the Arts 36th Annual Art Exhibition, Friday 7 PM to 9 PM, and then Saturday noon to 4 PM. June 4th is the Fishing Derby at the Town Beach, 9 AM to noon. June 5th, Wilmington High School graduation. June 9th, Shawshene Tech graduation. June 10th is the Rotary Trivia Night, Shriners Auditorium, 7 PM. June 11, townwide sale, 8 AM to 2 PM. June 11, Town Beach opens, and June 12th, the Farmers Market begins. Town Common Parking Lot, 10 AM to 1 PM. Will continue on successive Sundays through October. Then June 12th, Herndon Tavern Open House, 430 Salem Street, 2 PM to 4 PM. And I would just add one other date that isn't on there. We have the next meeting of the Facilities Master Plan Committee, which is May 24th at 6:30 here in room 9.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda at this time. If there isn't anything further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Just wanted to add one quick thing, if you wouldn't mind. So there's been, as was previously noted, a lot of discussion about the intersection at Glen, Middlesex, and Wildwood. And we've received some comments from the public, which is understandable. I think there's some sequencing issues that need to be addressed. I just want to make sure the public understands that we are aware of this. As I noted at a prior meeting, the plan was to activate the lights and then essentially go through this 30-day test mode, if you will, which we're in the midst of. The lights were activated on Friday, May 6th. They will continue in this mode and receive comments. Mike Woods, the Public Works Director, will be having conversations with the contractor on this job, and they in turn will be providing information to Mass DOT, and Mass DOT will ultimately determine what adjustments will be made to the intersection in terms of signalization. And there was an issue that was raised this morning to me about some lane issues in front of Nichols Funeral Home. So I would just encourage people to be patient, and we are cognizant of the some of the concerns, and we'll look to address them.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, before you adjourn, I just want to say the intersection of Glen Road looks outstanding. They did a great job, and I believe they were ahead of schedule, and we should send a letter to them. They did a fantastic job out there, and it's working. And I didn't even vote for the signalization. I voted with my colleague, Mr. Newhouse, for the roundabout, and the signalization's working, so things do work out better, you know? So, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from anyone? At this time, I'd entertain a motion again to adjourn, if I may.
So move.
Okay, do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, anything further? All those in favor? Unanimous. Good night. Thank you.